David Glick, Chief Technology Officer of Flexe, joins me for a discussion about multi-node fulfillment. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you, Bob?
Good, thanks for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
What is multi-node fulfillment?
Yes, oftentimes people will try to fulfill across all of the U.S. from a single node in Ohio, which is quite inefficient and costly. And so moving from one node to 2 nodes to 3 nodes to 12 nodes allow you to service your customer faster and cheaper.
So gone are the days of the multi-million square foot regional DC that supplied an entire country, right?
Yeah, and what we saw back in the day is that you'd have big batches of small SKUs shipped, batched up for weeks and then shipped very slowly across the country. Amazon changed all of that. They put inventory close to the customer and are able to give you 2-day shipping for a relatively good cost.
Okay, well, you just started to answer my next question, and that is why is multi-node fulfillment so important today? What are the benefits of it to brands and retailers?
Yeah, so Amazon has set the bar at 2-day shipping, and they're moving towards next-day shipping. And so if you go to oldspice.com and have to pay $8.95 for a unit and then $4.95 shipping, and it gets there in 7 days, are you going to do that versus going to Amazon where you pay no shipping and it shows up in 2 days or less?
Okay, but let's face it, it's no charge. Someone's paying for it.
Yeah.
It is an expensive proposition, is it not?
It is an expensive proposition, but not as expensive as it might have been or used to be. One of the things that Amazon in particular has done, but other retailers as well, is as you put inventory closer to the customer, it shortens the last mile. So you're paying 1 zone of shipping or 2 zones of shipping rather than putting something on a plane from Ohio and you're paying 6 zones of shipping to get it there overnight.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes those nodes can be an actual store, right? A brick and mortar store, is that correct?
Yeah. There are a ton of retailers who are trying to do this out of the store, and some of them are doing it well. Target, for example, has built big back rooms in the back of their stores, and they ship, I think, 73% of their units from the stores.
Wow.
Many other retailers are struggling because for 2 reasons. One is stores are laid out with a inefficient pick path because they want the dads to walk past the beer to get to the diapers. They want you to walk around the whole store. So that's thing one. And then thing 2 is customers are screwing up your inventory. And if you don't have high inventory accuracy, you're going to be out of stock of things you need to send to the customer.
Right. But yeah, and yet we do hear about the creation of so-called micro fulfillment centers, which solve that problem by being a separate, discrete operation within that brick and mortar store.
Yeah,
Right.
and so and as I said, Target does some of that out of their back rooms. You have other folks who are setting up the micro fulfillment centers either adjacent to or even connected to the store, but often they can be in a completely different place.
Mm-hmm.
And again, my point of view is if you have the inventory segregated from where your customers are, that's going to improve your inventory accuracy. And it's also going to allow you to set up short pick paths and save money on the walking, which you don't mind spending money on walking if your customers are doing all the walking.
Right. Okay, sounds great. But what are some of the challenges for brands or for stores of implementing this system?
Yeah, if you think about it, not from the stores, but from the fulfillment centers, it's very easy to have a vendor or a lot of vendors send full truckloads to a single store or single fulfillment center. When you go to 3 or 5 or 10, the vendors have to break down their assortment and send some here, and so that adds some complexity. The second thing is it's very expensive to set up standalone fulfillment centers. And so traditionally, you'd either have to build your own, and that's what Amazon did and spent hundreds of billions of dollars doing that. Probably no one's going to do that. Or go to a 3PL who usually wants a 3 or a 5-year term on their lease or on their contract. And so that's where you find these long-term contracts in big boxes. There are new technology today and new companies who are saying, we will give you shorter term contracts and we are able to start up faster, so that takes away the second problem, which is the capital intensivity of building multi-nodes. You still have the challenge of how do you source and supply those nodes?
Okay, so you've just knocked down some of the barriers to creation of a multi-node fulfillment system, but why are some retailers not doing it?
Yeah, so change is hard,
No.
but B, many people don't know that there are now opportunities to build capital-free, variable cost only nodes. They're stuck in the model of 5-year leases with huge capital up front. So that is an opportunity for retailers to learn more. And then the second part is the complexity of systems, which you need to bring the inbound inventory into the buildings rather than sending it to a single building.
I would think also maybe the cost of the real estate, because I would think a lot of these nodes we're talking about are by their very nature urban in their setting.
Yeah, and that's part of, if you stand up your own building, that's a huge cost. If you use a 3PL, also you have to pay the rent, and oftentimes that is either incorporated in a long-term lease, or you have a big capital payment up front.
Okay, so do you think this is the future of retailing?
I do. There's Flex and ShipBob and Amazon FBA, who all are bringing down the cost, the initial fixed cost or capital cost, and driving variable cost only solutions. And they can help you both figure out where to put the inventory and then finding space to put it with no fixed cost and no long-term contracts.
Okay, David, thank you very much for talking a little about helping me to understand just what multi-node fulfillment is. You started to allude to Flex in your last answer. Just tell me a little bit more about where you guys are in the marketplace today and just what you're out to do.
Yeah, Flex works with enterprise retailers and brands to help them put inventory close to customers in the right place with no upfront costs and no long-term contracts. And what we know is that most of the cost of the supply chain is in the ARCs, is in the transportation, trucks, planes, ships. But the way you reduce that transportation cost is not by going and yelling at your vendors. The way you reduce that transportation cost is by putting nodes in the right place, putting the warehouses in the right place, which allows you to shorten the last mile. And that's what Flex is all about, is allowing you to stand up nodes wherever you need them very quickly so that you can move that inventory to customers most economically as possible.
Definitely a creature of, or a necessity rising from, e-commerce, online shopping, the omnichannel. So it sounds like a very interesting solution. Thanks very much, David, for elucidating this whole idea of the multi-node fulfillment system. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I'm speaking with David Glick of Flex. Thank you very much for watching.